In this video, I'm going to explain how to interview virtual staff. I'm going to give you some tips and advice and tell you what I do. If you've never interviewed staff or never interviewed staff online, then it can be quite a scary thing to do, but actually it's not so hard. And if you come prepared, knowing what you're planning to do and what you're planning to get out of it, it can actually be quite good and quite rewarding as well, especially if you hire the right people to do the jobs for you. So some of the things that I'm going to tell you that I do, you don't have to do them all, but I've had pretty good success with the majority of the things that I do, and run through a few of those things. So one of the number one important things is the job offer. Try and be as detailed as possible. Try and give as much detail as you can. Explain about you as a person and the company that the person will be working for, as well as the job and what they're expected to do and so on. There is a lot of people out there who skip this stage, and quite rightly, a lot of Filipinos can be very skeptical of a job offer because there is people out there who do scam Filipinos into working for them for a little while, not paying them and then going away. So you want to avoid that. So you want to basically give a honest and good picture of what it is you're actually doing about your company and the kind of things they can expect to be doing in the role. That will increase the amount of people who actually apply for the job. Now, when they apply for the job, starting the interview process, never just jump into something like Skype or whatever and do a video interview. That will be a total absolute fail. It doesn't work out. Stay away from it. Maybe if it's an online presenter's job, then fine, okay, whatever. But generally speaking, that does not work. Filipinos, for the most part, are quite shy. Not every one of them. I mean, I've got one who's got his own YouTube channel. There's a link on the homepage of my YouTube channel and you can check him out. He's given advice to Filipinos. Yeah, have a look at that. But what I would say is this, right? Start off by emailing questions. Get them to send you, the resume, CV, whatever. Filipinos use the word resume just like Americans. If you are from the UK, you would use CV, so you're clicking vitae. But yeah, I didn't say that word right, and that's me speaking English. But yeah, anyway, if you ask them for that, that'll give you a rough idea. Now, a lot of them will just use online portals to show what they actually, tell you what they can do. They treat that like their CV. So you have generally a good idea by looking at that of what they've done. Some of them have portfolios. So for example, never hire a graphic designer who doesn't have a portfolio, because if he's too lazy to put together a portfolio, then he's not going to be a good designer. He's just going to be lazy. Just stay away from them. All designers just about have portfolio of their work. Now, some of them will have it stored on Google Drive. Some of them will have it on websites that they've designed. Some of them will have it on portfolio sites. It doesn't matter where they have it. As long as they have it, that gives you a good indication of, is this the kind of designer who I want to hire, who does the styles that I'm going to be asking for and requesting. I use that a lot for hiring people for my company, BL Design. It's a great way of seeing people's different artwork and so on, and getting a feel for what they can actually do beyond the standard graphic design elements that just about everyone can do. It's the things that you don't actually ask for, like the illustration styles they do and stuff like that. It's really quite fascinating seeing some of them out there. So graphic designers, ask for portfolio. Same with anyone who's doing pretty much any role. It's a little bit harder with virtual assistants because, it's like, oh yes, I can do the following, but they don't actually have any examples of the work, because it's, generally speaking, if they've worked for someone that's private and confidential to that client, so they can't actually give you things, but they can maybe tell you about the things that they've done, and that gives you an opportunity to ask questions about the work that they are doing, and that's what you want to base your first lot of questions on. Ask them stuff about, what their current or past jobs were. You do want to make sure they realise that if it's a full-time job, that it's a full-time job working for you, and not a case of full-time job for you, part-time job for him, part-time job for them, and so on, because that can happen as well. Don't get me wrong, I don't actually have a problem with people having side hustles or extra work outside of their main job, but just as long as they know that they dedicate, if it's a full-time job, 8 hours to you, 5 days a week, fully dedicated and they are working towards that job. So just make that clear and make sure they understand that that is what you're expecting of them. Ask questions, keep emailing questions when they send you, obviously if someone sends you in stuff and you think, oh, well, they're not going to be any good, just stop. There's no point. I tend to, if someone has went to the effort of writing in and supplying a CV or resume and answer some questions, I will say to them, look, I don't think you're right for me just now, but I'll keep your details on record. Sometimes I do. I mean, sometimes it is a case of, okay, that person's not a back-end developer, but they probably make a good front-end developer, so I'll get back to them at some point and speak to them about that. You will have people who will try for roles that they just can't do, but you can usually find that out with good interview questions. Just, have they done this work before? Where have they done it before? How long have they been doing it? Those kind of things. And use that as the basis to ask the follow-up questions, and make sure you ask follow-up questions and get a feel for the people who are actually applying. If they're willing to reply back to you and you've been replying to them a few times, then you generally find that they are keen and interested in the job. If they just give up, then you know they weren't really serious and they weren't really that interested. Anybody who is serious will reply to a reasonable amount of questions. Now, generally speaking, I can go through about 10 to 20 questions, and on my website, Outsourcing Boss, at some stage in the future, not just now, but maybe later on, if people are watching this video weeks or months from now, I will put together some of the questions that I ask, so give you a guideline of the things that you can ask people. Now, when you get the people narrowed down, I do like to have a Skype interview with them, okay? But I let them know in advance that this is going to be something that I would like to do, and let them know that it's not going to be a scary process. It's just a get to see you and hear you, and give them a chance to see and hear you as well. So I will say to them that you will need a webcam for it. Now, not everybody has a webcam. Most people have a mobile phone, and mobile phone does have the ability to video, so they are able to do Skype, for example. May not be the best quality, but it's good enough to actually do a small interview. Do state to them, though, that you understand that if they're young, for example, they may live in a household that has a family, has got young kids, and, yes, they'll probably show them out or get them to everyone to be quiet while they're doing the interview. But, there is occasional times where, I've had interviews where there's all kinds of craziness going on in the background that's not necessarily in their house. It may be from their neighbours. They may even have chickens, which, is something I've came across. It's quite funny. That's not a normal, usual thing for people in, the UK, Spain, America, and so on. Unless you have a farm, of course, then maybe you do. But yeah, so expect strange things like that. Now, I've had some interviews where people, let's just say that their house wasn't fully decorated, fully painted and etc. It's just been sort of Breeze Brock style house, not the best looking in the world, but I'm not hiring someone based on what their house looks like. I'm hiring someone based on what they're like as a person and can they do the job for me. I don't give a crap what their current situation in life is. That will improve, especially if they end up getting the job and they're earning money. Things will improve for them and they'll end up with a better life, So I'm not judging people based on their living conditions. I'm basing it on, are they going to do the job for me? Now, it is a good opportunity to ask them some stuff like, questions that they won't really be expecting, but like, what do they do for fun? What their situation is at home? Do they live with their parents? Do they live on their own? Do they have friends? Do their friends do similar jobs? Do they know anybody who works online? Have they worked online previously before? All kinds of questions like that are really good ones to talk and chat and get some information. Now, I always ask them if they've got any questions that they want to ask me, and the majority of the time the answer to that is going to be no, because they haven't thought about it. Now, higher skilled or higher paid jobs, those people tend to do ask questions. You will get people who are older who will ask questions, people who have been around a bit longer. I've had interviews where people, I've told them in emails before about my companies, and they actually have looked up the website and read a bit about a company, and it's been quite impressive for them to ask questions. In fact, one of those people got a job with me and been great. But it is not a normal thing for questions to be asked, but when they are asked, it is quite good. And generally speaking, it's usually around subjects of what it is they're going to be doing. They tend not to talk about pay, but generally speaking, I've already stated that up front. And during an interview, I will reiterate to them that it's a full-time job and it's for this amount of money. They will get paid directly into their Filipino bank account. Now, the reason I pay directly into Filipino bank accounts is, believe it or not, there is Indian work centres, call centres, whatever, who will try and get work pretending to be Filipinos. Now I know the difference between someone from India and somebody from the Philippines, but a lot of people don't. It's one of those things. It's like, if you've never been around the culture or never experienced people from the different cultures, then you're not really going to know. But one thing I do know is that only Filipinos can have Filipino bank accounts. Indians can't. So if they insist that the only possible way they can get paid is PayPal, then they're probably not Filipino, because PayPal is not one of the best ways to get paid anyway. And if you've got a bank account, they will want it directly in. Because they get the full amount of money, they don't get any special charges because of the way I use TransferWise. There will be a video I've done before that you can check out to see information on the best way to pay people from the Philippines. So that's just something to watch out for. Now, one of the things I would highly recommend you do, so for example, I've hired video editors, 2 of them in the past, and what I've done is during the interview process for them, I've said to them, look, you've said great stuff, you've shown me, really good things in portfolios, but I need to know if you can edit a video that's going to be good for me in the style that I want. So what I do is I give them some footage. So for example, like my son will have recorded a Roblox game that he's played on. He's got webcam footage, and we'll give them those elements to say, okay, I want you all to edit a video. Now, generally speaking, we usually give them about a week on that, because sometimes you'll have people who, they have to eat, they have to, do jobs and work for a living to get some money in, but ideally they want to be a video editor, so they have to do that job during the day. So in the evenings, they'll edit demo video that you want to find out if they're going to be any good, if they're going to be the video that you want. So what I'll say to them is, I'll set a low amount of money. It won't be huge. Generally, we'll either pay that through PayPal or straight to the bank account if they've got one, but I don't mind paying for the demo work through PayPal, and that gives me an opportunity to evaluate how they're actually good at taking instructions from me. So it'll be written instructions along with the actual video files, and then just seeing what they do, oh, it has to be like this, it has to be like that. I'll just say, well, here's ones we've done in the past, this is the style, how can you improve that, how can you make that better, what could you actually do, and also to tell them what the realistic deadline is for a video. So a video to be edited and to all the stuff done to it, I generally look for them to do about 16-hour turnaround, so it's 2 days. That's generally speaking. Sometimes it can be, if it's short videos, this isn't going to be a short one, but a short video in a day, and in 8 hours it should be fairly capable from doing. So as long as they understand what the job's going to entail afterwards, and give them that week to actually do it, do their first one to give you an idea. I found that way is absolutely awesome, because it allows you to weed out who is not so good and who is really good and who can follow instructions and so on. Yes, you have to pay maybe 4, 5, 6 different people who you've shortlisted, all have to pay them all a small amount of money. But believe me, you will save yourself a fortune, because you're not going to be working with someone for weeks or months and think, oh my God, they're crap, I'm going to have to get rid of them, start this whole process again. It's worth the money. I've done it with back-end developers as well, and front-end developers too. I've done it with graphic designers. It's great. I actually love the idea of paying 5 different people 1 week's wage to get them to do something for me to see what it's like, and then select the best person. Now, when I hired back-end developers, I ended up with 2 instead of 1 because they were both really good. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, I could really do a lot more stuff faster. It's not what I was planning, but I can see in my head how I could actually get this done and get more work done, and eventually get them to work together as well. So that way I've got backup, so one can go on holiday and the other one can look after the system. So there's, or if I need to call someone in emergency, then great. So that's why I ended up doing that. But honestly, if you can do that kind of interview, and if you can do that kind of trial, a paid trial, don't do trials where they don't get paid at all. If it's maybe like 15-30 minutes worth of work, then fine. Okay, you don't have to pay them if that's the only way that you can know if they can do the job. So maybe set them a task. So say it's a VA and you've got a simple task, say, here you go, I want you to do this, I want to see how you can do it, how you actually do it, then fine. But if it's quite a complicated task, or it's quite a lot of work that's going to be involved, or if you're asking them to do several, like for a designer, for example, you could be asking them to do up to 5 or 6 different designs to prove that they can do it, then yes, pay them. You know, at the end of the day, I might not necessarily use the work. In fact, the majority of the time I've not even used the stuff that they've done, but it was just to find out the skill level of that, and I've asked certain things, specific things to get done that I think will show me if they're capable of doing what work I actually do have planned in my head for them to do. So yeah, paid trials, definitely the way to go. Works great. Avoid Skype interviews at the beginning. If you don't want to do them, that's fine as well, but I just like to introduce myself and also find out what they're like and get a wee introduction to them. The Filipinos are really, really shy, and some of the staff that I've got are because of other staff members, and I've not necessarily had a Skype interview with them, because when someone vouches for a friend or a relative that can do the job, then they're effectively saying, I'm putting my reputation on the line here for this person. That's how good they are. And generally speaking, it's turned out to be fantastic. You know, so you might not always have to go through a big lengthy interview process. It might just be a case of questions through email. That's enough, and away they go. So yeah, spend some time on it. The interview is key to getting people that are good, and if you can do a paid trial, that's even better, because you'll find that in the long run it will work out better, and you'll feel much happier with the staff member that you get at the end of it, as opposed to you'll do, or you're the cheapest, or whatever. That's just not the way to do it. You know, it's like, talk to them back and forth, get your questions answered, make sure they can do the job, and you'll be sorted. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a like. If you've not subscribed to the channel already, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. And if you're a business person who's watching this program, please share it with your other business friends who may be interested in outsourcing. That's how this channel is going to grow. I'm not expecting it to be a huge channel, but you know, it would be good if I had a couple of thousand people watching instead of 25 as I do just now. Okay, thanks. Anyway, speak to you later. Bye.